There are plenty of Cinco de Mayo celebrations this weekend, and if you're raising a glass at one of them, chances are it's going to have tequila or mezcal in it. What's the difference? Mike Ward is here to explain. Good to see you.
Good to see you, and there are a lot of differences.
There are. So what is it exactly? It is not a tequila.
It is not tequila, and we should talk about it separately. So, I kind of thought we would maybe do a comparison. I've got the Gran Caramino Cristalino tequila in 1800, and then the 400 Rabbits mezcal. But we should talk about them, as separate categories.
Okay.
I always thought that mezcal was just smoky tequila. Like they make it the exact same way, and then at some point in the process, they added smoke to it.
Let's start by saying that's not accurate, and there are requirements.
Not even close.
Not even close.
Well, because a lot of people feel that way, and we won't even maybe talk later about the worm, and that's something totally different. But different species of agave and different regions. They come from the same country, and there are some similarities. Sure, they come from agave, but when you make when you make mezcal, you have to process the piñas from the agave.
Okay.
And they do that by digging a hole in the ground and then putting some stones and heating up stones at the bottom of the hole, putting the piñas in the hole, put dirt on them, and let them smoke for days. That's where it gets that smoky flavor. In tequila, in the region of tequila, we use ovens for the piñas.
And that's why it is less smoky.
Right.
So when we're talking about mezcal, is it mostly the base for a cocktail, or do a lot of people drink mezcal straight?
I think people who are used to mezcal and that smoky flavor and like it, and I do, would drink it
Straight.
by itself or on ice. But it's such a great cocktail additive as well. And you can do some cocktails that have tequila and mezcal.
Really?
Yeah.
So what is a great cocktail with mezcal in it?
Well, there's a cocktail that I really like called Smoke and Fire, and that's got tequila and mezcal as a base and several different juices, but you get that smokiness and you also get the agave flavor from the tequila. So you have to kind of like that smoky flavor in order to enjoy a cocktail like that.
Does mezcal have as much alcohol as tequila?
Yes, and I would say, it's not a replacement for tequila in your margarita.
Okay.
I guess you could have, there's probably some recipes out there you can find that have a mezcal version of a margarita. Sure, probably. But I think it's not necessarily a replacement.
I know someone who they are in like a tequila club, and all their friends, they drink tequila. I go to their house and they've got all these tequilas and everything. I just texted her and I said, "Do you guys like mezcal?" And she said, "No, it's not the same."
Well, let's do another comparison. So if you like bourbon, would you like a scotch that had that peaty, smoky taste?
They're completely different.
Yeah, they're both whiskeys, okay, but two different countries, two different production methods, and I think it's the same thing. But as we're going to talk about later, Mary Ward's going to have some people out pouring 400 Conejos, I can't say it. Conejos. 400 Rabbits, and on her Facebook page. We'll talk about it later. You can go and
find
taste it. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about tequila then, because you brought in a couple different ones. Which ones do you have over there?
So I have the 1800 Reposado.
Mm-hmm. And let's clarify real quickly while you have that. Reposado is a little golder in color, and that's because it's been rested.
Been rested in oak barrels. So the four types: Blanco, Reposado, Añejo, and Cristalino. And so Reposado and Añejo have spent time in oak barrels. Reposado means rested, and so it usually is in oak for about 6 to 8 months, but bigger barrels. And Añejo tequila is in longer, maybe 12 months, in smaller barrels that look a little bit more like a whiskey barrel.
Got it. And then the Cristalino?
That is Reposado tequila. So Gran Caramino.
That is a beautiful bottle. Describe that bottle to everybody.
So it is this interesting, like twisted bottle, like your agave is twisting out of the ground almost.
Yeah.
In this wonderful bottle, and it's a reposado that's been aged in oak, but then filtered. So they remove all the color, but you still get all that nice flavor and aroma, like vanilla and anything that the oak and the oxidation would give to it. But
And who's making that one?
this is Gran Caramino, which they have a beautiful Blanco and Reposado and Anejo as well. This just happens to be their Cristalino.
Got it. And is Cristalino, is that a more expensive tequila because it goes through a process that is a little bit more time consuming?
Yeah.
Or is it still on the same shelf?
It's priced with an Anejo, or probably like in between a Reposado and an Anejo. And I would say that if you like Reposados and Anejo tequila, you would like a Cristalino as well. So don't look at the color and go, oh, well,
It doesn't
have the
taste
flavor.
cleaner.
It is cleaner, but it still has those nice vanilla components and the nice aromas that you would get from a tequila that was in an oak barrel.
Okay, I know we've kind of switched over to tequila, but I have a question about mezcal on the text line. Somebody's saying, I bet the smokiness from a mezcal would make a great Bloody Mary, which I guess would be a Bloody Maria
Yeah, that would be good.
in this case.
Yeah,
Have
and
you ever had that?
Yeah, thank you for sending that text in. That's exactly right. Bloody Maria, there's some great recipes out there, and I have had it, and it does, but you got to like that smoky flavor.
Well, if you're already sticking
Yeah.
the bacon in there with the shrimp and the
Yeah.
cocktail sauce,
The
might as
whole
well.
meal as
Yeah.
far as that goes. And I don't know that I have heard of the 400 rabbits.
So, Conejos, if I can I have to look at it and pronounce it correctly, but this is a great brand, and this one in particular, there's two labels that I brought from Oaxaca, and the agave is espadín, so that's a different species of agave that
How
you'd
many
find.
species are there of agave? Hundreds?
There are hundreds,
And-
but there's only a smaller amount used for alcoholic beverages.
Okay, so it's not like every agave plant is known for making alcohol. It's like
Right.
5 or 10, or are
Well,
we still talking
more in the 20s or so? Blue Weber agave is the only agave used for tequila.
the only one? And that's
only
all
one.
tequilas, every brand.
Required by the local governmental law.
It can't be a tequila if it doesn't have the blue agave.
Right.
Okay.
And espadín is the agave used in most mezcal, but not all. And then they probably use about, 10 more. This one has Couche, is another species of agave used in this other brand of 400 Conejos.
If you were doing a tequila tasting, could you tell the difference in the agave?
I don't know that you could tell the difference in agave like you could with grapes for wine.
Okay, that's what I was.
But you certainly could tell if they, if they didn't use them.
Right.
Espadín brings in, and you can, brings in maybe some floral aromas and some fruity aromas. But, and you can look at the different agaves and see that they bring in different aromas and flavors. But it would be hard to like blind taste and pick that out.
So it's not necessarily like a Pinot Noir and a Syrah.
Right. Exactly. It wouldn't be that, completely different.
Yeah.
But you could, the smokiness would hide some of that, but you could find some different flavors and aromas if we open these two that I brought today.
Okay, I want to know about the legend of the agave lightning bolt.
Well, obviously, agave has been there growing in that environment since the indigenous people, the Aztecs, and, the people that were there before the Spaniards came in and brought distillation. So the legend is that because you need heat for the agave, that a lightning bolt hit the agave, it broke it open, and the piña was there, and the piña has all the sugar, and so you need heat to cook the piña, and then, of course, there's yeast everywhere, so it created this fermentation. And a substance called pulque, which is not a distilled beverage. It's more like an agave wine, I guess you could kind of describe it. And so, of course, the people there attributed this to a god that gave them this, and it became a beverage that they would drink. They had no idea really about the alcohol, but they probably had the after effects of it. But that's where it really started. And when the Spanish came in with distillation, they realized they could take this pulque that people were making and distill it, and that's where the concept of an original tequila sort of was born.
As far as all the tequilas and the mezcal that we talked about, can these be found at most grocery stores, liquor stores, dirt cheap?
Yeah, you can find these at Dirt Cheap. You can find them wherever you would purchase a premium tequila or mezcal. I think that it's safe to say the mezcals are sort of just kind of breaking into the market a little bit more.
Okay.
They might be a little bit harder to find, but on the Ward on Wine Facebook page, if you want to try it and try that smoky flavor, Mary has put the locations where the tastings will be for this brand coming up, so you can try it first, which I would encourage you to do before you buy it, because it's not a low end product, but it's great with the Bloody Marys. It's great with a cocktail or by itself. So give it a try.
All right, you don't have to twist my arm. I'm not letting you leave yet. We're gonna switch gears here in a minute and talk about bourbon, because tomorrow is the Kentucky Derby. Right now, however, we need to get a check of traffic with Captain Paul. I feel like we'd be failing you with the Derby being tomorrow if we didn't mention bourbon. So Mike is sticking around to talk about Jefferson's Reserve Bourbon. One of my favorites, by the way. It is so good. Why is it so good, Mike Ward?
Well, it's made by people who know what they're doing and using the right ingredients. And one thing that Trey does at Jefferson's is they're always like experimenting with different types of aging, not so much different mash bills, but how they age, like Jefferson's Ocean. They're
Also
experimenting with rye a little bit now. But, what can they do for finishing barrels, kind of blending a little bit different. So they're always like experimenting, which I love.
What does it take to put reserve on the label?
Well, so first of all, you have to choose the right barrels. And in this case, he makes the right blend. So different aging, different times of aging, 4 to 6 years, maybe 8 years, maybe longer. So he chooses all these barrels by hand. And that's why he uses that term reserve, because it's really like his personal blend.
Yeah. There'll be a lot of bourbon served tomorrow at the Kentucky Derby. Is it just the mint julep that is served, or are there other drinks that you can get if you're at the Derby? Because I know you've been before.
Well, the mint julep, of course, is the official cocktail since 1939, the official. But I'm sure when you're there, you can, if you don't like the mint, you can probably find a Manhattan or an old-fashioned or
that
something
goes with
like
it.
that.
What is in a classic mint julep?
You have to have the mint julep.
Do you, though? Yeah, I guess you do.
Okay, yes.
It's
Just
Josh
for
because he
one.
likes the sweetness of it. But what is in a classic mint julep?
Sugar.
Okay. Start with, as always, we got to start with a good whiskey.
Yeah, Jefferson's Reserve.
And a bourbon, because bourbon, Kentucky, they're linked together, so you got to start there. Now, the mint is a key component of it, and the simple syrup, of course, that's going to provide the sweetness.
Simple syrup, for those who don't know, is just sugar water.
Yeah.
But I think what the key is, the mint has to be fresh, and then you muddle it, and that's what brings out that mint flavor. And so you do that first, and then you add the ingredients, so the mint's already in there, kind of coats the glass, and it's already like released. If you're just sticking the mint in your drink as a garnish, it's not really intended to be a garnish.
You really want to taste the mint.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Does it have to be crushed ice?
Yes.
I mean, that's tradition.
Yes.
Right?
It is tradition. Okay.
If you don't
So-
have it at home, that's okay.
Out at the wine bar in Newtown, my buddy's the bartender out there. Every year for the Derby, he goes out and gets crushed ice specifically.
You can buy it at Sonic.
You can
Buy the
buy it
bag.
at Sonic.
My mom and dad do it all the time.
Because you got to have the real deal. Mm-hmm. What are you doing if you're just doing bourbon and sugar water?
Right.
And you're not macerating the mint with the pestle and the mortar. You're not doing it right. You're not actually having a mint julep.
Yeah, you got to do it right, and you can do it right at home. You just have to have the right ingredients.
Highball glass?
Yeah, highball glass. Yeah, or tall glass.
Yeah.
Tall
Yeah.
glass.
And I think, what's the difference? Why is it bourbon important? And Jefferson's one of my favorites for cocktails. Well, bourbon has to, by law, be at least 51% corn in the mash bill, and then you can use malted barley or rye or wheat. Jefferson's has a little bit more corn than that, so that's going to provide that little bit of sweetness. So that with the simple syrup, going to, kind of enhance the mint a little bit so you get sweet and minty.
Okay, I don't know what the horse feather is. I was looking through some other kind of classic and modern cocktails. What's in a horse feather?
Do you want my honest answer here?
Yes.
I was looking on their website and I saw horse feather.
Okay,
and I
so you
thought,
didn't know either.
I want to have this.
Okay.
And I added it. I got to be honest, right?
No, I want you to be honest. Thank you.
Has the ginger beer and bourbon.
Oh.
And so I think, that is what really makes it. And I ginger beers, I'm going to make one of these this weekend.
And try
So,
it.
Yeah.
Now, I'm an old-fashioned fan, have been for a long time, but the smoked old-fashioned is even better.
What do you think about those smoked?
I love them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you
I
do
love
it, or do you have somebody
No,
do it?
I don't do it, but I love the presentation of it when I'm out somewhere. I just love everything about it. But you can taste the smoke in a smoked old-fashioned.
I think you can, and I would say, just like we always talk about cocktails, like make sure it's not overwhelming, because you still want to taste the sweetness and from the sugar that you use, the bitters. You want to taste the sweet and the bitter. You want to be able to taste the whiskey. The smoke should be like a compliment, not just everything that hits you. You know what I mean? It shouldn't be just smoky.
Is there a device you can buy to add the smoke to it, or is there?
Yes.
Am I rubbing sticks together?
Yeah.
That would be.
Can I pour liquid smoke in there?
Ooh, I don't know about that. There are devices that you can buy, and either online or I'm sure they're sold in some of the stores.
Yeah.
And some nice instructions there on how to use them.
Yeah, make sure you read those before you start drinking the cocktail, probably. When it comes to an old-fashioned, just remind people what is in it.
So here's another. This is my opinion, so you try this at home, because I know people are really kind of do old-fashions a different way. But what I like to do is empty glass, sugar cube first.
Okay. Sugar
Bitters.
cube instead of simple syrup?
Yes, and
Okay.
I'll tell you why. Sugar cube, then bitters. Okay, now you've got your sugar cube soaked in bitters.
Ooh.
Now you have a muddler, and you muddle it. You break up the sugar cube, and then you kind of run it into making like a sugary, bittery paste.
Okay.
Now the next ingredient is the whiskey, and then you can put ice on it and a garnish. I like to do that so that the glass already has all the sugar and bitters in it, and you're not bruising the whiskey by putting that in first and then trying to add the sugar to it. Now what are you going to do with that sugar and bitters? You're going to hurt your whiskey, if that sounds weird, but that's how I make them, and that's how I learned to make them from a real bartender.
Okay.
And so try it at home that way first. And I know a lot of people are like, no, I just make it the way I've always been making it, and that's fine too. But I think what you want to do is try those bitters and sugar first.
I've tried it a couple different ways, like with a sweetener instead of sugar to make it less sweet, because I do like my old fashions less sweet. But you mentioned garnish. Is orange the appropriate garnish for an old fashioned?
Yes. But I kind of stuck on those Luxardo cherries.
Oh, so
I
good.
kind of have to go
Oh,
another
yeah.
way. That's just me. But
So you do
both
the
in
cherry, not the orange, or can
Maybe
you do
both.
both?
Maybe
okay.
Both in there.
yeah, why not?
I mean, there's so many great cocktails, but if we're talking about the Jefferson's Reserve, I mean, it's perfect either neat or just on a cube. Do you prefer, there's so many fancy ice cubes these days. I love the big round ball or the big square. What's the best way, if you want your bourbon on ice, what's the best kind of cube for it?
Well, I think what you should try to do is think about the water that you're using, and I use filtered water, or and I know that some people might sound silly, but I think that starting with an ice cube with quality water is helpful. And I know you can. There's ways that you can kind of make ice that are specifically for whiskey, but I mean, to me, I like the larger cube so it melts slower.
Yeah.
Because remember, if you dump a bunch of ice in there, it's going to
changes
melt
the
fast.
whole
And now
flavor
you've
profile.
diluted your cocktail, right? So the
Yeah.
bigger cubes or the round cubes are good too, but just make sure you're
The bigger the
thinking
cube,
about,
the slower it's going to melt,
Yeah.
the less watered down your drink's going to get.
yeah. Because anytime with any alcoholic beverage, the colder you get it or more watered down, the more flavor you're going to remove, and that might be okay. Like for the smokiness of the mezcal.
Maybe that's what you want.
Maybe that's what you want. But
Yeah.
if you enjoy the flavor of that whiskey or tequila or mezcal, then just remember, as you get it cold or water it down, you're going to have less flavor.
All right, you mentioned the mezcal, and I know you were digging into agave. What did you learn about the plants?
Oh, yeah. So 200 species of agave and 30 can be used for mezcal, 1 for tequila. But espadín is the species that's the main species of agave for mezcal. And the worm has traditionally been used. You don't really see it much more, not in tequila, but it's used in mezcal.
Mezcal.
So why did
And-
we think it was tequila for all these years? We just crossed
Well,
them over.
I think we just kind of mixed it up somewhere. Maybe
Liquor from Mexico. We
Yeah,
all just
and we just
assume it's
assume.
always tequila.
And
What
it is a worm that actually lives in the agave plant. And the
Is
idea
it for
was
good luck? What? I don't-
well, originally it was to know if your mezcal had the right proof. You know, you would want the worm to not be able to survive in that environment. So that's originally what it was. Now, also, there is a type of mezcal, not the ones we're talking about today, where traditionally they would distill the spirit through raw chicken or turkey meat.
Ugh.
Have you ever heard of that?
No.
So they do like a
Okay.
secondary distillation through, and it has sort of religious meaning to it. Now, once that spirit gets in the bottle, you know, that's not going to really reflect a lot of flavor, but that is also a type of artisanal
Okay.
mezcal.
But not these.
Not these. Not these.
Okay, well,
If
we have
you-
thrown a lot of information at you today. So if you have a question for Mike Ward, you can always reach him 24/7. The man doesn't sleep at.
Mike at wardonwine.com.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.